Yo, yo, yo. Hey guys, welcome back to another awesome edition of the Best Practices Show podcast. I know I say that all the time, but this one is truly awesome. Today, I have the great Katrina Sanders on the podcast, a regular guest and a regular friend. She just returned from an amazing conference, and during a panel discussion with Dr. Gordon Christensen, someone asked a question about her in the back of the room. And the question was, would you hire her? This story is awesome. And the thought process behind it is even better. So please listen up. I hope you guys enjoy this, and we'll see you soon. Hey guys, welcome back to the Best Practices Show podcast. You know the jam around here. I have the coolest job on the planet. I really do believe that. I get to interview some of the best minds, teachers, speakers, authorities in all of dentistry in hopes, well, it's not hopes, I know for a fact, that these people will share some great information to challenge the way you think and improve your practice and your life. And I have my regular guest, a sister from another mother. I just told her I'm the older brother. I don't even know. On today, Katrina Sanders, and I'm going to give you a little preview of the title, and it's this: would you hire her? So let's start here. Katrina, thanks for being back. I always appreciate you.
Oh my gosh, it's so good to be back. Hello. And hi, everybody joining us again. It's so awesome. Feel like every quarter you and I sit down and we unpack the skinny, and there's been so much going on between your world and mine. And so I'm so happy to be back here, just unpacking it all. And today, hopefully, we're going to really unpack it.
Well, you make my job super easy because you are an amazing expert. And as you guys will see, she's brilliant. Sometimes I don't even know what she's talking about. I'm going to have to think about that one for a while. But no, you're one of the most gifted. I say this in a lot. I got to find a different way to say this. I think you're one of the most gifted educators I've ever seen, because not only do you bring the education, you bring the research, the humor is, it's very hard to be dental funny in an intelligent way, and you are, and you can relate to team members. I've watched hygienists laugh out loud, and I'm like, I don't even know what she just said, but obviously that's very funny to you, type of a thing.
Very special humor.
You're on the cusp of, what's happening in the world on research and data, and so welcome back. Just excited to have you here.
Thank you. It's good to be back, as always. Yeah. It's good to be back with you.
And you guys don't know this, but I said to her before he had to go, I think we could talk about food. We could talk about anything. We could talk about weather. Yep. And I think we'd have so much fun. But I asked you, where do you want to go today? And you're like, I had a conversation. You were on a panel. Now, I'm going to tee this up, and I want you to, let's go big picture. And okay. You were in Chicago, and you were on a panel with Dr. Gordon Christensen, and a few things happened, and it got into a nice conversation. Let's call it a healthy debate. And one of the questions that came up was, would you hire her? So Katrina, let's go high level. What does all that mean? Where are we going?
Yeah. So I'm going to set the stage for y'all. Okay. I want you to picture this. So it's Gordon Christensen invites me to be on this panel, right? And it's me and 4 other panelists. They are all doctors / ortho, airway, perio, and then I'm the token hygienist, center of the panel. And so it's okay. I'm going to be here to represent the hygienists in the room, right? And the way the panel was set up was people in the audience could write on index cards questions they had for the panelists, and the index cards would come up to the front, and Dr. Christensen would hand out, who he thought was best to answer said questions. So I got all of the hygiene questions, the periodontist next to me got all the perio questions, etc. And there was a question that came up that was kind of a 2-part question. The first part of the question asked, what do you know about the current hygienist shortage? / is there a shortage / where do you think that shortage has come from? And then another question that was kind of in the same vein of that was about the OPA, the oral preventive assistant position that has been created in several states across the United States. And the question around what do you think about it, etc. Now, the questions came in throughout. We were there for 3 hours on this panel. It was like the craziest thing, right? We're there for 3 hours. So I've already been on the panel at this point for about 2 hours. And we were answering all different kinds of questions, high level clinical. I was being asked about microbiology of bacteria and, all these things. So I'm spending all this time answering all these questions. And so finally, the back hour of the panel, this question comes up, and I said, I want to present this. I want to talk about this. I was allowed to plug in my computer and show slides if I wanted to. So I have this program where I talk about the hygienist shortage, and I thought it was important to share this information. So I threw down some data, and I want to kind of walk through this so that you understand where this all came from, right? So I said, there actually is a considerable hygienist shortage. And the problem with the hygienist shortage is that it's a problem that we have actually created. The current statistics indicate that in 2019, the ratio of hygienists to doctors versus the ratio of hygiene students to doctor students have kind of created a little bit of a gap there. So it was noted that the ratio of dentists was 2 to hygienists. So for every 2 dentists, there were 3 hygienists that were considered licensed across the United States.
Okay.
In that same year, the ratio of dental students to hygiene students from a graduation standpoint leaves us at a ratio of 1 to 1.
Wow.
So dental student graduations have increased by 28.7%, while hygiene graduation has decreased by about 4% during that same time period. That is just enough of a gap to create a 1-to-1 ratio. So if you think about a lot of the practices that are out there now, these practices where you've got 1 doctor and 2 or 3 hygienists, the current graduation model does not make it sustainable for that to be the case. The current graduation model is 1 doctor for 1 hygienist, because we are seeing an increase in numbers of seats in dental schools available, whereas we are seeing dental hygiene programs closing at stronger rates.
Right.
So we've created this shortage. And then, I cite the data. This data came from the federal government. This came from lots of surveys that have been done via the ADA in their Scientific Research and Health Policy Institute. So I always, in small font down at the bottom of the slide, include all my data, right? So I include all this information. And then I said there was an important survey that was done that looked at the hygienist shortage, and specifically, why are hygienists leaving the practice? So we looked at the fact that moving forward, we don't necessarily have enough in the way of hygiene students to meet the needs of the dental students coming out. But now we're also seeing the challenges of hygienists leaving the industry. And so why is that? So this survey I cited said 70% of dental hygienists have considered leaving the profession in the next 5 years. 33% of those hygienists indicate signs of clinical burnout. The top reasons cited for exiting the profession, the reasons why hygienists would exit the profession: number 1, lack of growth opportunities in the clinical practice. That's number 1. Number 2, toxic work environments. Number 3, inflexibility in the work that they're doing. And I'll just say this for me, frankly, I have a 10-week-old baby. Like, life changes when a baby arrives. So me returning to work may need to look different. And that may mean I can still work the same number of days, but I might need to pump in between patients. And if you don't have flexibility for that in my schedule, that's going to be really hard for me to stay in the profession, right? And here's the best one. So we said lack of growth opportunities, toxic work environment, inflexibility. This one really blew my mind. Lack of respect from leadership.
Wow.
Isn't that incredible?
Why is that number 4?
I don't know. It just blows my mind. So this is what's crazy is I said, here's the challenge. Dental hygienists, we're not tired. We're systematically unsupported. Now we want to talk about the oral preventive assistant. I promise I'm going somewhere with all of this. So I'm on this panel and I said, now there's a question about this oral preventive assistant, which in many states, including the state of Arizona, where I practice, is a provision that's been put into play where essentially a dental assistant will take a weekend course in how to scrape teeth, and then they'll be able to come in and perform Prophys. And I talked through why, by the way, you cannot bill out a Prophy code for an OPA performing that procedure. And specifically, I dove into the fact that these are the wrong fixes for the right problem. We acknowledge that there are challenges with having employable hygienists prepared to step into the role that we need them to. But creating a shortage, and that shortage being really developed from a space of hygienists feeling a lack of respect from leadership, feeling like they're in a toxic work environment. And now we're creating this role that further devalues who the dental hygienist is. And so I said, in this room full of mostly doctors and Gordon Christensen, the godfather of dentistry, right there, I just said, and respectfully, I find it extremely insulting that we have found a way in this profession to continue to devalue and corrode the skills, the talent, the education that I have achieved and earned in order to be able to deliver high-level care to my patients by simply employing and permitting an assistant to take a weekend scaling course. And you think that is commensurate with what I do. I find that extremely insulting. Wow. And the room just erupted in applause. I mean, just like erupted. So my husband, Dale, is in the back of the room. Yeah. And we had traveled with our baby. So he's got like the daddy, like baby Bjorn thing on, and the baby's in the Bjorn. And the applause erupts and it kind of wakes the baby up. So he's like kind of stirring a little bit. So Dale turns to leave to go out of the room because he's like, oh, we're going to have the crying baby in the back of the room. And as he's walking out, a couple of doctors sitting in kind of the back row of the room stop him and they said, hey, you're a young, hip dentist. On a super side note, my husband is hip, but he's not young. Just kidding if he ever listens to this. And he's also not a dentist. But it's amazing. They assumed,
right,
young male walking out of the room, he must be a dentist, right?
Yep.
But they said, you're a young, hip dentist. And they point to me up at the front of the panel and they asked him, would you hire her?
I love it.
Now, this is what's so crazy is, of course, these doctors did not know that they were talking to my non-doctor husband, right?
Right.
So Dale turns to them and he goes, you mean the hygienist up there? And they said, yeah. Would you hire her? And my husband replied, absolutely, I would hire her. Now, then they had a question. They asked, yeah, but wouldn't you be concerned that she would tell you how to do your job? And Dale turned to them, he smiled, and he said, yeah. And I just might learn something.
That is so cool.
Isn't that crazy?
Yep. Very well said by Dale.
Yes. Yeah. Very well said. Yes.
Yeah. That is awesome. I would have loved to seen their face.
Yeah, I know.
Was there anything after that? Or did Dale...
Well, I mean, he turned around and walked out. But this is what was so interesting about what happened after the fact was I was down on the exhibit hall floor and I had probably 3 or 4 hygienists come find me and say, I heard that you just like completely gave it to them on the panel that day. And I thought, oh my gosh, I mean, this is I'm from the Midwest. I come from humble upbringings. I was not raised to be somebody who just kind of blurts out what she thinks without considering the repercussions of what she said. And so I was concerned, like, did what I said offend? Was I offensive in what I said? Apparently it was provocative enough that people were talking about it long after I was there, and even people who weren't on the panel. Mm-hmm. And I think about that, and I go back to the things that I listed as some of the key reasons why hygienists are leaving the profession. And I think that's the issue.
Right.
That's the issue. Hygienists don't feel a layer of respect. We don't feel like we have autonomy of growth and development in the practice. And I showed from the panel, I showed that I'm an independent thinker. I showed that I am here because I care about my patients. I had just spent 3 hours next to a periodontist where she and I were sharing our research together, showing slides of all of the incredible data about microbiological changes and innovations in the provision of prevention and perio. I mean, I spent hours showing that. And there were doctors in the back of the room that questioned, would I want to hire her? Right?
Right.
That's the issue. That's the sizzle. Why wouldn't you want to hire somebody who's going to come in and say, all right, listen, we have patients who have experienced supervised neglect. Why are we not taking routine radiographs on these patients? Why are we not diagnosing perio on these patients? Why do we not have this product, this procedure, this, protocol into place? We need to clean up these protocols. Why are we not billing for this? Why are we not talking to patients about? Why are we not screening for this? Wouldn't you want that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it was amazing because the question that came out of all of this was, would you want to hire someone like that?
Yeah.
That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
That's the problem.
Yeah. I wish we could have Gordon on here.
I know.
Say, listen, I'm going to ask you the question. Now let's unpackage this a little bit deeper, though.
Let's do it.
Because you're really good at taking a little bit of a higher elevation and calling out what's really going on in the room or why this is happening. What's your hypothesis?
Can I just be provocative and bold and honest?
Of course. As opposed to what?
I was just going to say.
One of my least favorite comments, and you never said, is like, can I be honest? When people go, I'm like, oh my God, please.
Be honest. That's why we're here.
That's why you're on here. So just go there.
Okay, you gave me permission to be honest. It's the ego.
Yeah.
It's the ego. I get it. Doctors don't want to be told what to do. I completely get it. Doctors went to school, they achieved their doctorate. There is so much respect in that.
Right.
And I will say this, if you interviewed, any of the doctors who I work with, if you were to, Dr. Wilson or Dr. Fitzgerald or Dr. Donovan or Dr. Adesha, you were to ask any of my doctors who I work alongside, I'm confident they would tell you I have a deep respect for them. I don't burst into their office and go, listen, this is what we need to do. I have a mutual respect for them, but that mutual respect means they also respect me.
Right.
And I think that we have a pervasive problem of egos that have created this false sense of nobody should question me. Nobody should push back. We shouldn't challenge. And the perception that if a hygienist has provocative ideas that are not shared by their doctor, that there's an intrusive or invasive quality to their ego.
Right. And can I just add one thing? Because I'm an insider on this. I know Dr. Ralph Wilson very well. And I truly look at him as one of my favorites in the industry.
He's
mostly because of his curiosity and humility. At the last time we were together, he was asking lots of questions. Like, okay, I have a couple questions for you. Like, he's never been one to say, I've got this. Like, I've totally figured this out. And I'm assuming I've never worked for him, but he surrounded himself with people that he's encouraged them to lead. He wants to be in a room full of people that are smarter than him. It makes all of us better. Would you agree? And that's a tone 100%. From the top. That's a tone. Right. Yeah.
That's right. And that I think is what you asked is such an important piece. Do you want to be the one who knows absolutely everything in the room? Or do you want to walk into a room where you have such a diversification of knowledge and you can leverage those strengths amongst the people that you're working alongside, right?
100%. Yeah.
And that's where, and you're spot on. Ralph does ask a lot of questions, and he doesn't just ask questions of his team. The way he interacts with his patients.
Yeah.
Now, and I'll tell you this because Dr. Wilson is extremely good at what he does.
Yeah.
He has loaded thousands and thousands and thousands of implants. He has taken complicated cases of patients that have had explant or botched surgeries from other surgeons, and he has repaired those, and he has done it with humility and grace. He is an extremely skilled clinician. So, just accolades and education and knowledge and all those things alone, he could walk into a room and he probably knows more than most everybody of any room he walks into. Probably.
Right.
However, that is not how he approaches his interactions with his team, and certainly not with his patients. And what comes out of that is the fact that his patients feel heard.
Right.
We in dentistry feel this sense of needing to be the know-it-all. We need to always have the answers and be the know-it-all. And Dr. Wilson is a good example of somebody who will say to the patient, you know what, I don't know. In my experience, here's what we could have. I can't promise you that you will get this outcome because I don't know. But in my experience, if we perform this, this, and this, I like to add antibiotics. I'd like to add growth factor, whatever it is, I'm taking these into consideration. My hope is that we will get a good outcome.
Yeah. I love this.
That's really important because if I could even deepen my provocative thoughts on this.
Please.
Now more than ever, the scientific method, evidence, research, the knowledge, the skills, the talents of medical providers is being questioned.
Right.
And if we have an ego where we shut that down and we don't even let people question us, we are fueling those fears. We are fueling the very real fears. And I say that as someone who was a high-risk geriatric pregnancy and was in labor for 36 hours. My doctor had to come to me and say, listen, I know this isn't the plan that you want, but we have to do an emergency C-section and we need to do it right now because the cord is wrapped around your son's neck multiple times. So we need to, I want to, as a patient, be in a space where I can ask questions and have those questions respected by my healthcare provider. And I, as a healthcare provider, want to create an environment where my patient can ask questions. Like, I've heard that there's some controversy on fluoride right now. I'm so glad you asked. There are a lot of questions out there about the controversy of fluoride, about its effectiveness, about its safety. I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to remove my ego as somebody who has a bachelor's degree in dental hygiene and master's degree in educational leadership and read the 300 plus page PDF from the ADA about the safety of fluoride. I'm going to remove that ego for a second and just get real with my patient and say, I am so glad you asked.
Yeah.
But the problem is if we hang on to that ego, the ego of feeling responsible for being the smartest one in the room always, for being the best leader, for doing all, if we have to hang on to that ego, I think it makes it such that as business owners and as leaders, that we are not open to collaboration. We're not open to curiosity. We're not open to growth.
Yeah.
And this is where we get into that concept of, well, this is the way we've always done it. Right?
7 most expensive words in business.
That's
and
right.
what you're saying, that hold on, I'll tell you, that's a hard hold on to trying to be I've shared this in the podcast. One of the most pivotal moments of my life was I thought leadership was me learning more, me being more. What I really found out was you're not really a great leader until you create other leaders that are great leaders that create other. Right. And it's the most freeing thing you could ever imagine because now you don't have to be smart. All you have to do is invest in people and keep your mind open, which is another challenge too. Very
challenging. Yes.
But I do want to ask you this. Let's go back to the research. Okay. And I mean, I don't expect you to know everything, but where are we on the map with this? You know what I mean? I think you're a great thought leader and this is a trend that's not going to go away. Yeah. These questions are not going to stop. Yeah. This tension is going to exist. There are many people that have been on this podcast that says the team shortage will never go away as long as you're alive and practicing in dentistry. Where are we on the map?
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the challenges timeline-wise. in mapping this out. So my husband and I were just talking about this last night. We do have a major issue in the healthcare space. This isn't just dentistry. This is healthcare. And that is the silver tsunami. The fact that our boomers are aging, and we in the healthcare space did not plan for what happens with the largest generation aging and living into those aging years, as well as dying longer. And by that, I mean the back end of a significant portion of individuals who have surpassed that life expectancy. That back end of their life is filled with chronic disease and medications and now subsequent oral disease, right? As a component of that. People are living longer, and they're living longer with their natural teeth. But one of my favorite quotes, this is by Peter Drucker. He says, the best way to predict the future is to create it.
Yep.
Right?
Love it.
And so if we acknowledge we've got this silver tsunami, we've got major challenges inside of this, of that growing older population, retaining their teeth, advanced prevalences of disease, and those, demographic shifts, we need to be prepared to step into that. And while we have that silver tsunami, we also have shifts inside of our team. So if we talk specifically about dentistry, I will tell you, we have a shift or a movement into career hygienists, whereas the career span of a hygienist prior to the last amount of data that was taken was around 9 years. Now, the current career span of a hygienist is about 16 years.
Really?
So on average, we're seeing hygienists remaining in the profession longer. We're seeing hygienists graduating with their degree and remaining inside of that profession. And they do it for a longer period of time for a very specific reason. A lot of the data that we found about dental hygienists specifically, and I'm making generalizations here, but a lot of the things that we found about hygienists is that, oftentimes they are seeking shorter employment spans. So maybe 2 days a week or 3 days a week, because they get their health insurance, their 401k, et cetera, from their partner's provider, their employment, things like that. So hygienists are a bit more flexible, which allows them to be able to have a longer career span.
Right.
Inside of that, hygienists, particularly assistants, so your clinical team members, they are having babies and they're choosing to return back to work after having babies, where that flexibility, whereas maybe that wasn't necessary before because these were team members that chose to not return to work. Now they are choosing to return to work, and that flexibility is going to be necessary inside of our profession, right? So we're looking at things like what kind of trends are we seeing on the employment side are going to be valuable and important as we meet the needs of the employed population right now. So this is where I think it is important. Again, the best way to predict the future is to create it. It's important for us to take a look at the whys. Like, how did all of this happen? If hygienists specifically are saying one of the reasons why they're leaving the profession is the fact that they don't have growth opportunities, then as an industry, as a practice owner, what are things that you are doing to create those opportunities for growth?
Yeah.
For your clinicians? If inflexibility is an issue, what are we doing to create flexibility inside of the profession? And
Right.
I'll say I wish I knew her name. There's a female dentist who has a really terrific Instagram page. Of course, I can't think of her name right now, but she's got an amazing Instagram page that talks about the fact that dentistry has been set up for inflexibility for women. And that's important because 60% of dental school graduates currently are women. And I think it's something like 97% of dental hygienists are female.
Yeah.
So why don't we have things built into the dental column schedule for women to be able to pump in between patients?
Right.
Why don't we have, flexibility for, women, that, need to take restroom breaks when they're on their cycle and things like, why don't we have flexibilities built in? The rigidity of this is how we've always done it has created a challenge where we haven't not only predicted, we also haven't created the future of what dentistry is, which is diverse, which is serving our aging boomer population, which is adapting to protocols around how we help this aging demographic, what their clinical needs are, what their scheduling needs are. How do we adapt to the unique needs of our team members?
Yeah.
How do we create a space where we are more flexible to those needs?
Right.
And again, I think if the ego is up front in driving that, this is the way I've always done it. My dad was a dentist. This is the way my dad ran his practice. So this is the way I'm going to do it. Then unfortunately that ego is going to get in the way, I believe, of doctors creating a space to hire thought leader hygienists.
Right. Totally agree. I think this is so exciting what you've talked about because I'm thinking of the Serenity Prayer. You're presenting some very important information. There's research that shows the source of this. All of those points, lack of growth, toxic work environment, inflexibility, lack of respect for leaders, those are all fixable. These aren't macroeconomic trends that we can't do anything about. They're just going to happen.
That's right.
And you know what I mean? So like when you look at this lack of growth, if you do a check-in, it's all the things we've ever talked about. I'm going to go back to the question, would you hire her? In 1 second, if there'd be one condition, you and I had the same value system.
There you go.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you and I didn't have the same value system, you would be a constant threat to me.
Absolutely.
Do you know what I mean? Like, because you wouldn't know what core values were, or I wouldn't know what core values were, and we'd be arguing about the intelligence factor of you and me and what's in best interest. But now if we're on the same plane as our value system, you and I can assume positive intent.
That's
that
right.
we are both working and we know how to behave in an environment where you can challenge me. I actually love being challenged. I have 3 daughters. I have told them.
Oh, yeah, you're challenged all the time.
Very rarely has a well-behaved woman made history. Do you know what I mean?
That's right. That's right.
If you do it well with a value system, people are going to go, she's amazing. The women I work with, I wouldn't mess with them. But I
wouldn't
also
either.
know on the same plane, we're in the value system. So I think all of these, the future exists for those who want it. Don't you agree?
Right. Absolutely. You're spot on. I want to amplify what you said about core values because I do think that's really important. And the concept being like attracts like.
Yeah.
So here's the other side of it. And to your point, I like being challenged as well. And one of the many reasons why I love and adore my husband and why our marriage is so dynamic is because we do challenge each other. Right. Sometimes we appreciate that. Sometimes we don't. But he did challenge me after I finished the panel because I asked him, do you think I was offensive? And he said, no. But he did mention, and he's correct, that I failed to bring up another important point about dental hygienists and doctors, which is not all hygienists. So not all hygienists think the way I do.
Right.
Not all hygienists show up into a practice, bust in through the front door and go, I'm here to take as many of your patients as close to 100% health as possible. That's my goal. Right. And I'm going to do that by making every prescriptive recommendation that is necessary. And I'm going to challenge my doctors. If I just came back from a CE course or I just came back from Chicago midwinter and I just found these amazing protocols or these products that I want to sit down with my doctor, I want to show them and I want to say, here are the ways that I think this will fit into our practice. But it isn't lost on me that not all hygienists are that way. There are Prophy princesses out there, right? There are hygienists, and I failed to share these, but I've got some slides inside of the same exact deck that I call the sustainable dental hygienist. So it's important to note that dental hygienists, from a confounding factor standpoint, dental hygienists should produce anywhere between 25 to 35% of the gross practice production. Inside of that, 75% of restorative needs should be detected during that dental hygiene visit. And we know this to be true. About a third of dental hygiene procedural codes should be periodontal codes. So whether that is active perio treatment or periodontal maintenance procedures. Yep. Downtime should be less than 5 to 8% of available chair time. That's your hygiene utilization. And dental hygienists should produce 3 times their wages. So just like, if we were to do like rough back of the napkin stuff here, okay, the average dental hygiene salary right now in the Phoenix Metroplex area is anywhere between $47 to $50 an hour. So if you're a hygienist who's making $47 an hour in the Phoenix Metroplex area, you should be producing $141 per hour in your chair. So that's about $1,100 for an 8-hour shift. If you're making $50 an hour, you should be producing $150 per hour. So you should be producing in your hygiene day, 8-hour shift, about $1,200.
Right.
And that's important because I want to call this out. Delta Dental pays, on average, $69 US for a Prophy.
Well, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work. The math doesn't math. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's really important because here's the other side of it. Not all hygienists think the way I do. And I will tell you, I'm going to make assumptions right now. I'm going to make generalization assumptions about the doctors in the back of the room who looked at my husband and said, "You're young and hip," and questioned if I'm even an employable person, right? Okay. Yeah. I'm going to make some assumptions. And by the way, like, I take zero offense to this. Like, I lean into this like provocative stuff. Like, yes,
so good.
Let's do it. Right? So I'm not offended at all, but I'm going to make assumptions that the doctors that were asking these questions maybe perhaps felt threatened by, how overt my ideas were, my thought leadership, the way that I spoke about, respecting myself and respecting my profession. So I will tell you, if one of those doctors hired me, and to your point, we started to see the convergence of their core values versus my core values, I would probably be in that practice for 4 to 6 weeks before I would very quickly learn this doctor does not respect my clinical skills.
Right.
This doctor just wants me to do whatever it is that they tell me to do. I am not encouraged to think bigger and say, hey, I think we need to change our perio protocols because we're doing lots of Prophys on patients that need advanced perio treatment. Hey, did you know that there are options like perio tray therapy, antibiotics, electric toothbrushes, water flossers, probiotic, like there's chlorhexidine-based, there's so many different things that we should be employing in this practice. And I think we should do that. And if I worked for a doctor whose ego said to that doctor, you need to shut this hygienist up because I'm feeling uncomfortable, and if I was silenced, I would leave.
Right. So
there is a world possibly out there. I don't know. And I'm going to apologize in advance for the hate mail you're probably going to get for this episode. But
never.
There's a possibility that there's a world out there that if there's such a fear-based mindset to doctors like that they likely are attracting the hygienists that just want to be Prophy princesses.
Yeah.
You are in a way manifesting.
Yep.
You have become a magnet for the clinician who is not ever going to challenge what you're doing inside of your practice. So yes, doctor, if you're burnt out because you're the practice owner and you don't understand, nobody wants to work, and I hired this hygienist and he or she doesn't have a patient at 10 o'clock and they're just sitting on their phone on Instagram instead of doing anything to help with they just want to sit around and sharpen their instrument. They don't want to call patients. They don't get along. None of my team members get along with each other. Like all of these fatiguing things that feel like that heavy weight on your shoulders. I don't know. I'm just challenging. Is it a possibility that you have created that?
You're not guessing. That is exactly what happens. You know?
Yeah.
Whenever I run into somebody who's like, there's no great people out there, I'm like, there's a lot of great people out there. Just not in your office, and they never would. You know what I mean?
You're spot on.
And as a business owner myself, I could never, ever subscribe to the idea that there's not good people out there. That is a self-limiting belief that limits me and the rest of the people out here. One more thing I think you would agree is, let's say you're a dentist who subscribes to what we're talking about, but isn't there yet. You don't need to have all of your team there. You just got to get one, a second one, a third one, and you create this nucleus around these values that you have, and then they start to attract other ones. I don't know. I'm not scientific, so I would imagine this attracts other, is it protons, neutrons? I have no idea. Like, what you do is you create this electromagnetic thing that builds and builds and builds until you eventually have 12 or 13 or 14 of them that are all bought in on what you're doing. And that takes work.
Yes.
It takes a lot of work. And then your ego starts to go away. But like, I don't know if there's a cure for what you're talking other than self-awareness. Do you know what I mean? Like you would have to, I don't know. So unpackage this a little bit more because I think this could go on for 2 more hours because I have like 10 more questions.
Yeah, you're spot on. So it is self-awareness. And I'll say this, I say this provocatively because everybody knows I work with AZ Perio. I do not get paid the most amount of money. I could absolutely leave AZ Perio and make more money somewhere else.
And why do you stay then?
Because
I'm loading the question for you, you know?
Because we talk about values.
Yeah.
And it's not about the money for me. Now, in working with AZ Perio, I work alongside some of the top doctors in the country, which means my doctors challenge me and I challenge them, which means when there are clinical cases, my doctor, Ralph Wilson, is pulling me from the hallway and saying, come in, take a look at this case.
Yeah.
Right? They are sending me to get phlebotomy certified so I can do the the blood draws for PRP and PRF. They are paying for me to be a part of their comprehensive study club where they're bringing in some of the top speakers in the country to talk about the periosystemic link. They also give me my birthday as a paid holiday every year.
That's awesome.
So I work with a practice that values me and that values my development. And I value that. So they're going to attract hygienists like me. And it turns out practices like AZ Perio, while yes, we do have challenges with hiring people, our challenge with hiring people is simply finding the right fit. We do not have a shortage of people sending resumes to our practice. Our challenge is, unfortunately, we get the hygienists who come in who think, oh, I'm working in a perio office, so I'm going to make an insane amount of money. Right. And the reality is, it can't be about money for you. Right. If you're now, we get paid, of course, but the idea being you have to align with our core value system.
Right.
And that's really important. So when it comes to how do you solve this, I think it needs to go back to, do you know what your core values are? Like truly, do you know what your core values are? Right. And if you know them, when is the last time you visited them?
Right.
And thought about how you and members of your team move inside of those core values?
Totally agree. I'm gonna add one thing because I completely agree. My question would be different. Is if you're a dentist listening, my question is, what are you building? Which would include Katrina's question. You know what I mean? Like, because I believe the divide's going to continue. What you just said about Delta Dental, like we could do a 7-hour symposium.
Absolutely.
You know, Katrina, people are pissed off at me because you're from this state and it's the great state of Wisconsin. People are mad at me specifically because one big dental insurance company, which you already mentioned, purchased a dental practice and it happened to be in our state. I'm like, that was not my fault. I had nothing to do with that. Now the hypothesis is running wild. Like some of the best minds are on this and they're like, that would only mean one thing. In order for them to make money long term, they're going to have to control all of these variables, meaning the divide will only get bigger. And as a dentist, would you agree with this question? You're in the middle. You have to pick a direction. You got to pick if you're going to create what you really want to create and manifest what you're talking about.
Right.
Or if you're going to let the train take you to a different station. Agree or disagree?
100%. I completely agree. And I think that's the scary part, is that there's a world out there where you have opportunity to say, even though the industry is pulling me in this direction, whether it is, being, an acquisition from a DSO, whether it's, purchase or, private equity investing in certain things, whatever that is, I think the scary but really thrilling part of all of this is the fact that you can make your own decision to choose to set up your practice, your mission statement, your core values, and support your team in the way that makes sense for you. Right?
Totally agree.
But that's scary. That's scary because it's
as opposed to what?
The other side of it is just allowing the natural magnetism of, well, I guess this is the way we're going, and I'm going to fall into the trap of allowing the profession to drive the way that my career, my legacy shows up.
Yeah.
The other side of that is going max bet on what you truly believe, which is
all chips in.
That's right. And that's scary. I mean, I talk about it owning my own business. Like 10 years ago, I decided I love teaching. I love working clinical. I want to start my own business. I think I could start this really cool business where I talk about wine. I save homeless animals. I talk about dentistry. I think people want to hear and metabolize dentistry differently. I think people want to hear a speaker who's got provocative ideas. I think people want a speaker that's going to push the envelope. I think people want to have edutainment. I think they don't just want to sit and have a snooze fest for 3 hours. They want to have fun stories, and they want to have humor, and they want to have colorful slides, and they want to have impact, and they want the most, up-to-date evidence-based research. And what a crazy notion that I, as a dental hygienist with sparkly heels and a pink Marc Jacobs tote bag, would sashay my way into conferences like Chicago Midwinter and Hinman and expect people to take me seriously. So 10 years ago, I chose to go max bet on that. Like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to max bet on myself, my dreams, what I'm doing. That's really scary because it's so contrarian. It's so contrarian to this like sheep herding model where it's like, no, this is what I should do. It's scary as a dental hygienist in a practice when you are one hygienist of 4 hygienists in the practice and the other 3 hygienists are saying, this is the way we've always done it. Just don't say anything. Don't push back on the doctor. Don't push back on just do the Prophy.
Right.
Just be quiet and do the Prophy. Right.
Right.
It is scary to be the one hygienist who says, I'm not going to do that because I think this patient needs advanced disease treatment and I'm going to advocate for that. And I'm going to tell the doctor why I believe that to be the case because I just took AAP staging and grading content. So I know that this patient has active periodontitis. I'm legally allowed to treat this disease, but cannot legally diagnose it. That is very confusing to me, but I'm still going to go ahead and show up for the doctor and give a dental hygiene diagnosis. And I'm going to be contrarian to what my colleagues say.
Yeah.
That's scary. But the reality is, where does our profession go if we don't have people with voices and ideas to step up and say, I know that's the way we've always done it, but that's not the way that we can continue to do it.
Yeah. But let me go to bat for you though. Like, I love what you're saying. I absolutely love it. And I can't think of anyone that I would go to see that was betting half of their chips. Do you know what I mean? That I would enjoy. So it's fun to watch you bet. And you use the word contrarian. I think you're more of a healthy debater. Do you know what I mean? Like you're not being a contrarian just to be a contrarian.
Sure.
You're presenting opposing possibly, and you're the person that can hold both sides of the debate. I get it. And this is another thing. And you need people that can challenge the way you think in this great profession of ours. I think it is amazing what you're saying. And I think in the future, if you want anything great, you're going to have to decide and fully decide. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just don't think you can do this profession half-assed.
No,
you can't. No, you can't.
Well, you can. You can. And the challenge is that does not lead to growth.
Right.
It does not lead to personal development. It doesn't lead to professional development. And at the end of the day, who truly suffers? The health of our community, our patients. True. Right?
True.
That's the issue. And I think that's what brings us kind of like, round robin full circle on this is now the scientific method is being questioned. And what we know to be true about vaccines, fluoride, are all being questioned. And I will say the ego says, when I took microbiology 20 years ago at the University of Minnesota, this is what they said about vaccines. So this is what I know. That's the ego.
That is ego.
The curiosity of being a science major and being an evidence-based profession where there's constant evolution in the data as we know it today says, I'm so glad that we're questioning this. Let's look into what we now know.
Yeah.
And that curiosity, that's what shows vulnerability. That's what shows the patience that, you know what, I care about giving you the correct information, not being the correct one in the room, but getting you the correct information. And that curiosity, I think, is what continues to allow us to drive forward with core values that make sense for us. So,
oh my gosh, you are singing. Yes.
I hope that at the end of the day, hygienists who think like me, which I think in questions, right? Just like you do, Kirk. I think in questions. What do we know about this? What do we now know? What should we be questioning? Right. My ChatGPT and I have this like crazy relationship because I'm asking questions all the time, right? So for the hygienists who think like me and ask questions and want to have development and want to have growth and want to have those opportunities to expand their role inside of their practice, I hope that you find doctors who, when they're asked, would you hire her, would say, absolutely, because I want to hire team members who I can learn from.
I love it. So let me ask the listener. You've been listening to this great interview. My question to you is, would you hire her? So, Katrina, I want to do this because I can keep you on here for a long time. I know people are going to want to find out more about what you do, and we're going to go there. But I want you to wrap this all in a nice little bow and give us some final thoughts on the whole question. Would you hire her? Even more so than you already did so eloquently.
Yeah, let's deepen this.
Okay.
Now more than ever, we are stepping onto the precipice of evolution inside of our profession. And there is a shortage of so many team members. We have an opportunity right now to decide if we continue down the path of creating a shortcut of having an underqualified individual perform the level of care that dental hygienists have been trained and hired to do, or we have the opportunity to choose to hire hygienists who are highly passionate, highly skilled, highly trained, highly educated, and very much are highly motivated to want to elevate their profession. So we stand on that precipice of who would you rather hire to drive the health of your patients? An underqualified weekend course, shortcut, fabricated, undervalued position, like an assistant stepping into this when we already have a shortage of assistants, or creating an opportunity to link arms with high-level thought leaders, hygienists who truly do want to continue driving their profession forward.
Yeah, that is the ultimate question.
I
call those choices. Now, your baby is little. Mine are older. But you'll say this until the end of time. Honey, you are the product of your choices. Make good choices in this career, in this life. And I would say anyone listening to the podcast this long is interested, curious, a lifelong learner.
That's
and
right.
you become what you choose. You become the product of your choices. You choose good people to be around you. And I encourage you to challenge yourself in what Katrina has presented. It's so beautiful. I love that. Love that.
Thank you.
I've got a couple more things because I know I can't keep you for. I want people to find out more about who you are. If you haven't had Katrina speak to your study club, or you haven't seen what she does, how do I find out more about you? Where do I go? What do you do?
Yeah. So you can find me on my website, www.katrinasanders.com.
Okay.
You can also find me on LinkedIn, Katrina Sanders. You can find me on Facebook, Katrina Sanders. And you can find me on Instagram at The Dental Wine Hygienist.
Love it. And if you're not taking notes, you can flip up to the show notes below. Now, one more thing that I'll share is you're part of the Act Dental community. Act Dental community has joined forces with the Smile Source community, and we have this thing called Exchange. It is incredible. And in the fall, it's a super conference for people that are making this choice to create that practice that you've always dreamed of, the independent practice, the thinking the proactive practice, and you're going to be doing an amazing segment for us. Can you speak to what that is and why people should come and join us for Exchange?
I'm so excited for this. This is so awesome.
Too.
So I actually did this as a program with, back at the ACT headquarters in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and it was such a hit. And I had received so many feedback pieces from hygienists and specifically doctor practice owners saying, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we needed to really next level what we were doing in our Perio program. And so we're taking this, we're kind of bottling it up, we're shaking it up, and we're making it an integrative and interactive experience for the Exchange. So I'm doing my program Pockets, Paradigms, and Protocols. It'll be a 2-hour lecture where we're going to kind of unpack some new ideas in Perio protocols. And then we're going to actually do a workshop where we'll have all different kinds of samples and products available. And we're essentially going to crack open our existing Perio protocols and rewrite what those protocols look like in the practice. So I'm really excited for it. It's always so much fun, and it really creates a lot of high-level value if you are in a practice as a hygienist or you are a practice owner where you've had the conversation around maybe we need to update our protocols, maybe we need to think about what adjuvant or adjunctive services we offer. Maybe we need to talk about what types of patients will make sense for this type of a protocol or this type of a procedure. So if you've ever had those questions or need clarity or want to have a space to fully workshop that as a team, that is what we are doing in San Antonio, Texas for the Exchange, which I'm really excited about.
I'm super excited. I have one more question on this. I love what you're doing. I think it's absolutely essential for a practice. And one of the discrepancies we hear about all the time, I'll hear a dentist say that the expectations of what happens in hygiene isn't what he or she would love to ultimately have. And yet, in the same breath, they'll send them to a course, go take this or watch this video. I strongly believe these are things that you as a dentist have to be there with your hygienist and experience together, because in that moment, here's what I enjoy, because I've seen it so many times. I see the dentist go, pss, 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 and the hygienist will go, yes, that's what I've been talking about.
That's what I'm saying.
And the hygienist will lean over and the dentist will be go, like, I love it. Like, there's so much layered learning that happens in those moments that's way beyond you giving the information. Would you agree?
100%. 100%. And this really goes back to the concept of letting the entirety of the team drive a lot of what's happening, particularly in your Perio program, right? I always say if you want accountability for your team, you want your hygienists doing the protocols that you've established, let them be the ones to build it alongside you.
Right.
So these are their protocols. And so, yes, it really creates high-level collaboration. And the reality is this signals to your hygienists that you support them in those growth opportunities, that you are flexible to exploring what new types of protocols could help support and benefit patient health. You know, it really creates an opportunity for your hygienists to find their own opportunities for development in the practice. So I think it's wonderful. And there's a lot of transformation that happens in the practices that lean in, bring the doctor and the entire hygiene team. And we even have office managers who very much wish to come to this so that they can see the behind the scenes of what happens in the back when we make those recommendations, so that our front office team can then take that and move it forward with billing modalities as well.
Yeah. And I'll speak firsthand. If you're a team member who works in another part of the practice that isn't hygiene and you don't understand all the clinical research, you will still absolutely enjoy it and get so much value out of it.
Absolutely.
Firsthand. And I love learning. I always pick up so much stuff. My head hurts after you're talking. And, you know, again,
Me too.
like I could rave about you for a long time, but the verbal skills alone are worth the trip. You know, so I couldn't be more excited to have you be with us at Exchange. It's going to be incredible. And we get this request all the time, like, where can I go to take my team? Get them all excited. I'm telling you right now, bring them. There's a link down in the show notes. Don't even think about it. Click on it. Join us. It is an amazing experience, and we're going to love seeing you there, Katrina, as well as everybody else that's listening. So thank you for being on.
Thank you.
I just love having you on, and I'm going to have you back again and again. You don't even have a choice. It's just awesome. I love our dialogue. I love the questions you present to this great profession, and you are truly a gem. So thank you for being my friend and being a colleague of our great community. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We'll stick around while we say goodbye to everybody else, but thank you guys for listening to the Best Practices Show. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I hope you were a little bit uncomfortable listening to it too. I hope it challenged the way you think. I hope it challenged the way you believe. And I hope it also presented an amazing opportunity of hope to practice the way you always want to. And that's what this show is about. So you keep showing up. We're going to keep bringing it. So until we see you guys next time, or you hear from us next time, keep watching or keep listening to the Best Practices Show. You guys enjoy your day.